This morning, it was reported that First Republic Bank has been seized by the U.S. government and sold to JP Morgan. Holy crap, the news broke at like 4 a.m. I wake up, I'm scrolling through Twitter, and it's just like, oh, hey, you know that bank that was in turmoil that we said was going to be fine because we dumped $30 billion into it? We've seized it and sold it to JP Morgan in the wee hours of the morning, which means this plan was being put together over the weekend, and then they pulled the trigger first thing. They wanted to get it done before the markets opened. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the new banking crisis. Of course, all of our good friends in media will tell us everything's fine and you are happy. But just like in 2008, when they come out and they say you got nothing to worry about, everything's going to be fine, well, it turns out they're probably not telling you the truth. And to be fair, I don't entirely blame them. You can't go out on a show and be like, the world's ending. The problem is people were pulling their deposits out of First Republic Bank. Now JP Morgan is absorbing this bank, and I honestly don't know how that's not going to create a cascade effect. So look, I get it. When the pundits come out and they say everything's fine, it's because the run on the bank is what destroyed the bank. And they don't want you to go and run on the bank and pull your deposits out. It's a tough position. Because I mentioned this last time we were talking about Silicon Valley Bank. You know, I can come out here and be like, you got nothing to worry about, everybody. Everything's fine. It's just a run-of-the-mill seizure of a major bank in this country, one of the biggest. And I can't do that. I'm going to tell you exactly what I think. I think I'm not an economic expert, but I don't understand how this doesn't lead to a cascade effect. It seems like what's happening is with Silicon Valley, there was Silvergate, these banks collapsing. First Republic was in serious trouble for the past month or two. And we saw this may be coming. And then last week, as people started pulling the deposits because they got scared, then it happened. A bunch of banks teamed up and dumped money into First Republic, desperate to keep its coffers loaded, but it wasn't enough. And I had people last week saying, Tim, they're not going to seize the bank. That's nonsense. And then first thing this morning, the fear was that they weren't going to be able to stand up on their own as people pulled their money from the bank. JP Morgan absorbed it. Is the argument now that JP Morgan, being solvent, can withstand the barrage? Or did they just invite the zombie bank into their house and the infection will spread? I do not understand how this will stop the spread. Now, perhaps what they're thinking is the spread's going to happen. If First Republic falls, it's going to have a ripple effect everywhere. And people were worried about this with Silicon Valley Bank. Here's phase 2. And so maybe their thought is, look, it's all coming crashing down. If we load the bad bank, if we put it into JP Morgan may crumble as well. But it's big enough to withstand it and hold back the waters for a short amount of time. Buy us some time. To put it simply, they were scared that Silicon Valley would lead to a cascade effect. First Republic Bank got hit by this. They were worried that would cause it to collapse. Everyone kept saying First Republic is going to be fine. It's rebounding. The stock is skyrocketing. And then first thing this morning, seized by the U.S. government. Holy crap. My opinion, I don't want the banks to collapse. I want us to improve and figure this out. But if the banks collapse, so be it. It's their own fault. The government can't just keep printing money and unlimited reserve loans. And it's a ridiculous system. My personal opinion, JP Morgan will fall. I am not an economic expert, and I'm probably wrong. Probably wrong, because I don't know anything about this. Like, I'm an internet guy. You know, I can talk to you about, what do we got here? Leftist tears. I can talk to you about that. Daily Wire. What are they? Thermos? What are those things called? I can talk to you about Rumble. Here we go. Here's the thing. Rumble. Talking to you about finance and economics, I got no idea. My only thing is, after we saw Silicon Valley, Silvergate, we see First Republic Bank, I'm kind of like, I'm just seeing banks fall apart. And if this bank is bad and now JP Morgan's got it, why would JP Morgan do better? Why would they? And the argument is JP Morgan wants to expand its footprint into these areas. And by absorbing this bank, it gives them tremendous access and assets. And I'm kind of like, yeah, and you're absorbing all the risks and liabilities that First Republic had too. And if that sparks a fear over JP Morgan's inability to properly absorb this, then JP Morgan customers are going to be hurt by this. And I'll put it simply, my assumption is, how could a JP Morgan customer not be hurt by this? I'm not saying the bank collapses entirely. I'm saying, how could you not, if First Republic is falling apart and JP Morgan absorbs that, won't that bring down JP Morgan just a little bit, not up? There's a reason why the bank failed. JP Morgan's going to have to cover costs and put their resources into a failing bank. Wouldn't that lower your standards from your bank? Let's read the news and we'll talk to you about what's going on. We got this from Wall Street Journal. Before we get started, my friends, head over to timcast.com, click that join us button right there, become a member, and hang out in our Discord server with like-minded individuals. And you will also get access to the Timcast IRL uncensored show where you, as a member, get to call in. We do about 4 or 5 callers per night, so support us there. Let's read the news. All right, here we go. Regulators seized First Republic Bank and struck a deal to sell the bulk of its operations to JP Morgan, Chase & Co., heading off a chaotic collapse that threatened to reignite the recent banking crisis. Yeah, dude, you stuffed a wad of toilet paper in the hole. I don't think you're stopping the waters. JP Morgan said it will assume all of First Republic's $92 billion in deposits, insured and uninsured. It is also buying most of the bank's assets, including about $173 billion in loans and $30 billion in securities. JP Morgan's going to blow up. What? How can you assume bad loans from a bad bank? They're trying to slow this thing down. As part of the agreement, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corp will share losses with JP Morgan on First Republic's loans. You see, there they go. The agency estimated that its insurance fund would take a hit of $13 billion in the deal. JP Morgan also said it would receive $50 billion in financing from the FDIC. The U.S. government is propping up this deal because the system is imploding. I can't tell you what to do. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy Bitcoin. I already got some. I've been buying some recently because, I'm scared to have U.S. dollars. We got this. Let me show you. Do I have this story pulled up? Where are we at here? Here we go. This is from April 14th from the New York Times. International money madness strikes again. The dollar is about to become toilet paper, says Robert Kiyosaki, author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Get rid of your U.S. dollars now, says Peter Schiff. What? They aren't alone. I'm seeing stuff like this in my inbox lately. Now, some of this is from Weimarists, who are always predicting hyperinflation. Schiff, for example, insisted back in 2009 that Obama's administration's policies would cause runaway inflation. It did! It literally did. Look at the M2 money stock. Let me pull this. People are nuts. Let me pull this up to show you what's going on and how crazy things are getting. He's like, yeah, well, he said it was going to get bad. Okay, when Obama took over, where are we at? It's kind of hard to make out because the spike is so insane. Let's do M1's got a better breakdown of it. So there we go. Take a look at this. Around 2008, you get Obama. And then look at the, for those that, it's visual. So for those that are listening, I'll try to explain it. The money supply is growing steadily for like 40 some odd years. Then around Obama, the housing crisis, which I don't blame him for, you then start to see a massive uptick. From the start of Obama's term, let's just say, where are we at? January of 2009. We're at 1,475 billions. And then by the end of his term, we're at double that. We're basically that's more than double. 3,452 trillions. And let's just make sure we're getting it precise. It's about 3,400. You look at some of the other presidents, and it's like from 1,100 billion. I'm sorry, billions, not trillions. But it's like 1 trillion to 1.1 trillion. You know what I mean? It's over a few years, the money supply does not grow that much. And then with COVID, the money supply just massively increased. So, I do think it's fair to say that we got massive inflation. Okay, fine. Maybe it's not Weimar-style hyperinflation where a loaf of bread costs $80. He says, still, as it says on investment prospectuses, past performance is no guarantee of future results, blah, blah, blah. They have a new argument. A number of countries alarmed by the Vladimir Putin, et cetera, et cetera. You get the point. The narrative has been there that the dollar is in serious trouble. The Wall Street Journal says San Francisco-based First Republic, the second largest bank to fail in U.S. history. Holy crap. lost $100 billion in deposits in a March run. So we've now seen 3 of the largest collapses in U.S. history in the span. I mean, the first was in a couple days. This one's a couple of months later. They desperately try to stave this off. Why would it not continue? Okay, now we're looking at 1, 2, 3. You want me to be confident in JP Morgan? I think they're absorbing necrotic tissue in hopes that a large, healthy body can push out the necrosis. I don't understand how that would be possible. The FDIC is dumping money into this in financing. Desperation. The federal government seized the bank and then financed its sale to JP Morgan. That sounds insane. To me, at least. Not an economic guy. 3 of the 4 largest ever U.S. bank failures have occurred in these past 2 months. First Republic, with some $233 billion in assets at the end of the first quarter, ranks just behind the collapse of Washington Mutual. You know, that said, I had Washington Mutual back in the day. I had an account. And then I remember one day it was gone. I don't remember what happened. I didn't have any money in it. I had like $20 or something. Rounding at the top, our top 4 are Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank. The deal means JP Morgan, the largest bank in the U.S., is poised to emerge from the current crisis even bigger. The lender has said it got about $50 billion in new deposits from panicky customers looking to move their money to a too big to fail bank following March's failures. JP Morgan had $2.4 trillion in deposits at the end of the first quarter. So maybe they'll be fine, right? That's the point. They're saying, actually, First Republic's customers went to JP Morgan. So they're not just absorbing the bank, they absorbed its customers already, so they should be able to withstand some very serious trauma. But I wonder now, the people who fled First Republic, they fled for a reason. JP Morgan buys them up. Aren't these people going to be like, it's back? Like the problem is here again? You try to get away. I wonder how many people are going to be like, I'd rather have my cash under my mattress than in JP Morgan at this point. You're buying up the bad bank that I was fleeing from. We will see. I can only just say that the idea that that the federal government is financing this deal shows JP Morgan couldn't make it happen, and the banks bailing them out, basically. From Nikkei Asia, there is no banking crisis, says Morgan Stanley CEO James Gorman on April 24th, 2023. I love this. You ready? This is not another banking crisis, says analysts. March 28th, 2023. What else do we have? Still not a banking crisis. March 17th from Kroll. I love how, are we in a banking crisis now? No, it's just 3 of the largest collapse of banks in U.S. history in 2 months. And you want me to believe that JP Morgan's going to be fine? I don't buy it. I love this one from ABC. Is the banking crisis over? Experts weigh in. Wait a minute. Let's hold on there a minute. April 29th, 2023 is the banking crisis over. Literally 2 days later, the second largest banking collapse in history happens. So let me just explain to you how the media is playing this one. First, we have April 24th, 2023. There is no banking crisis. Then we have March 28th. Not a banking crisis. Then we have March 17th, not a banking crisis. And then 2 days ago, is the banking crisis over? You see what they do? They say over and over again, there's no crisis. Everything's fine. Don't do anything. And then 2 days right before a collapse of a major bank, they're like, there always was a crisis. You mean to tell me that you actually perceived there as being an actual banking crisis, corporate press? Then who are these people saying there wasn't one? What is up with that? Lies and deception, I'm afraid. That's the game that they play. Well, our good friend Jim Cramer is undefeated. Take a look at this. On March 10th, Jim Cramer said First Republic Bank was a very good bank. Today, shares hit an all-time low, and the Treasury is reportedly working to save the bank. Can't make this up, folks, from bar chart. April 25th. They posted a screenshot from Jim Cramer saying, First FRC is new focus, very good bank. Oh, man. So, I'm sorry. I may not be a finance guy, but when I see you scream at the top of your lungs, there's no crisis, and then when someone reports they may actually seize this bank, the U.S. government is going to intervene, and people are like, no, never happened, and then it happens. I'm kind of like, it feels like there's a banking crisis, and why would I want to have any money with Chase? Tell me that. Chase just basically brought a zombie into their home. Okay? These banks, this is the infection that spreads. That's what they were telling us. They said, we have to take these actions because the infection is spreading. If we don't bail them out. That's what the FDIC just did. They $50 billion in financing. This is a government bailout. It did not work in 2008. I don't believe it will work now. So y'all ready for this? Man, I look, like I said earlier on, I know the influence of shows like this. And you've got people like Jim Cramer. You know why he's telling you it's a good bank? Because he wants you to stay. He wants everyone to keep their deposits and calm down. But everyone started pulling their money out because they got worried the bank wasn't going to survive. And it creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. So why would anyone then say, after all of this, I'm going to keep my money in JP Morgan Chase? There's so many other banks to choose from. There's other there's other things you can choose from. I'm not going to give you any financial advice. But I've been storing value in crypto, mostly in Bitcoin, and then very little in others. Because I view a lot of the others as like stocks. But Bitcoin, maybe it's not smart. I don't know. Bitcoin, gold, silver. I'm trying to avoid US dollars. I see inflation. You see inflation. We report on it. I don't know what anyone should do. I don't even know what I should do. It's hard, really. It's scary. You might be better off storing your money in casino chips. Who knows? Those can be converted for something of value. Nah, but they're just representative of the dollar anyway. I don't know. I got no advice for you. You better seek it out yourself. Oh, here we go. Jim Cramer, March 13th. First Republic will open its doors, but it did need help to be rescued as regulators stepped in to help things get stabilized. Someone says, you are a con and a scammer. Well, yesterday, we got this. Charlie Munger reportedly warns of trouble for the U.S. commercial property market. Yeah, here we go. Charlie Munger reportedly believes there is trouble ahead for the U.S. commercial property market. The 99-year-old investor told the Financial Times that U.S. banks are packed with bad loans that will be vulnerable as bad times come and property prices fall. It's not nearly as bad as it was in 2008, but trouble happens to banking just like trouble happens everywhere else. So are you ready for this? Because I don't know if I am, to be completely honest, but I've been at least preparing to the best of my abilities. I think it's probably wise for me to start storing some of my value in other things. I don't know that stocks will make sense. It's got to be something storing value outside the US dollar, which I don't know. I have no idea. Could be anything. I think for me, again, not for you, for me, crypto makes a lot of sense, namely Bitcoin. Interestingly, I met a dude from El Salvador, briefly, playing poker over at MGM National Harbor, because that's what I like to do on the weekends. And someone asked him, and he mentioned he was from El Salvador, and then I said, so what do you think? How's it been going? And he's like, it's so good. It's so amazing. He's like, probably going to go back soon. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, it's gotten so much better. That's Bitcoin, baby. That's Bitcoin in El Salvador. Shout out Max Kaiser and Stacey Herbert. So, man, look, I think they're putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. I think JP Morgan buying this with federal bailout money is stuffing toilet paper in the hole as the dam is about to burst. In fact, the dam may have already burst, and they're just throwing wave after wave of their own men to absorb the brunt. Or I guess a better way to put it is, the Titanic has hit the iceberg, and it probably happened in 2008. And they were trying desperately to stave off a major economic collapse. But that's why you see the money supply start rapidly increasing. Then COVID, kaboom. Now we're seeing a contraction, which is crazy. Take a look at this. The money supply is contracting. Now, what does that mean? It's crazy. 16 peaking at 20 trillion, then dropping back down. Where's the money going? What does that even mean with inflation still going up? So inflation is through the roof, but the money supply is shrinking. So things are going to be really expensive and people won't have any money to buy it. I'm not an economic guy. I can't tell you. I just look at all this and I'm like, none of this is normal. I mean, look at this thing. This chart, this ain't normal. It's like, look, we've not seen a retraction basically ever. There's a little bit right here. Goes from 1.1 trillion a few years later to, 1.7 trillion, then back up. Look at the retraction we're seeing right now. We hit 16 trillion in May 2020, peaked at 20 trillion, 20.6, and today 18.9 trillion. I got no idea. All I know is none of this is normal. So it ain't business as usual. I know a lot of people are probably going to just say, I'm going to keep on keeping on and do whatever I want to do and just mind my own business. You know, I go out to, we go out to the poker tables on the weekends and just hang out, relax. You know, people mistakenly think it's gambling. It's not. It's more like a sport. But I digress. I'm not here to talk about that. No, but I just hang out with regular people. And I think it's really great, actually, touching grass, as they say, to ask regular people how they feel. And these are just people who are hanging out on the weekends. Maybe they came down with the wife and they just want to, you know, play some games. And I get a sense of what regular people are talking about. And you know what I hear a lot? I hear a lot of people saying they don't like Donald Trump and they'd rather vote DeSantis. I hear a lot of people, and this is in D.C., saying, this is like just south of D.C., this is a major liberal hub, saying they can't vote for Biden, but Trump grinds their gears and they just wish DeSantis was the guy. And I find that interesting. I find it very interesting. But I'm also hearing people basically say that the economy is busted. I'm hearing them talk about how they don't know what to expect. The whole thing's in shambles and they think Biden's destroying everything. I don't know what to tell you, man. Don't look at me. I'm no economic guy. I'm no finance guy. I'm just looking at this like, well, the bank collapsed. I said that wasn't going to happen. Jim Cramer, do the opposite of what he says, I guess. Ask your financial advisor if Jim Cramer is the right man for you. They'll probably tell you, no way. I suppose we'll wait and see, as per usual. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. The next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel, and I'll see you all then.